In this video, we're going to look at simplifying surds before using them in rationalizing the denominator questions. So when you're simplifying surds, let's start by looking at each individual one of them. And just before we do, I just want to tell you guys a little trick. So if you add something like 3x and 5x, you know that equals 8x. But if you are adding 3x plus 2y, you can't combine them together, right? You just leave it as it is. Similarly, if you have two sets of surds like 4 root 2 plus 3 root 2, because they have a common term of root 2, you can combine them together just like you combine algebraic terms. So 4 root 2 plus 3 root 2 is 7 root 2 because 4 plus 3 is 7. However, if you have 4 root 2 plus 3 root 3, now there is no common term. This is a root 2, this is a root 3, so we just sort of leave it as it is. That same context works with algebra as well as surds. So what that tells us is that in this question, you want to make both of these terms so that they have the same square root, and then you can combine them together. So let's do that. Now root 32, that can be broken down into, well, let's think of the largest squared number that goes into 32. If we write a list of squared numbers, 1, 4, 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16, 5 squared is 25, 6 squared is 36, no point going larger. We can spot that 16 is the largest, not one that goes into root 32. So you can split this up into root 16 times root 2, because 16 times 2 is equal to 32. Root 16 is just 4, and if you multiply a whole number by a surd, you just pretty much connect them together, so it'll be 4 root 2. Let's apply a similar concept to root 18. So again, let's think of the largest squared number that goes into 18. 1 does, 4 doesn't, 9 does, 16 doesn't, and these are just way too large. So 9 is the largest one that actually goes into 18. So you can split this up into root 9 multiplied by root 2. The square root of 9 is just equal to 3, so you can write this out as 3 times root 2, and then that's just equal to 3 root 2. So as your final expression, you'll have 4 root 2 plus 3 root 2. 4 plus 3 is equal to 7, so that will just equal 7 root 2. And that's your final answer to this question. It then says simplify all of this here. Now, part A, because we've already simplified the numerator as 7 root 2, it makes sense that you just replace the numerator of this fraction with 7 root 2. And then you rewrite out the denominator as it is. In order to get, so the reason we rationalize the denominator is because there's a surd in the denominator, and we want to get rid of it. You can't just multiply by root 2 over root 2, because then this 3 will multiply by that to give 3 root 2, which again, we don't want. We want to get rid of all the surds on the denominator. Instead, we use the difference of two squares, where you write out the term on the denominator, but you change the sign in the middle. And then you multiply both top and bottom of the fraction by that term. 7 root 2 times 3 is 21 root 2. It doesn't matter if there's a surd in the numerator, by the way. We just don't want a surd in the denominator. 7 root 2 times minus root 2, well, 7 times minus 1 is minus 7. And then we have root 2 times root 2 is 2. And then 7 times 2 is equal to 14. So you can just simplify that into 14. And you divide all of that by, well, 3 times 3 is 9. And then root 2 times minus root 2 is minus 2, which is just 7. You might have noticed I didn't even take into account the middle terms, 3 times minus root 2 and root 2 times 3. And that's because this is the difference of two squares. We only need to take into account the end sort of points. Yeah. Now that we've got 7, you might have also spotted that all these terms are divisible by 7. If it was just, so if it was like this, and this term wasn't divisible by 7, then you can't divide each individual term by 7. You can't just divide both of these. You also have to divide this other term. But here, it is the case where each term is divisible by 7. So let's do that. 14 over 2, 7 is 2. 21 over 7 is 3. So your final answer is 3 root 2 minus 2 all over 1. Or just 3 root 2 over 2. Because anything divided by 1 is just itself. That's your final answer to this question. Hopefully that helped in understanding how to simplify surds and how you can also rationalize the denominator. Have a great rest of your day. I hope this video helped. If you have any tutoring inquiries, be sure to visit my website www.excellineducation.co.uk. It's on the first link in the description too.